Welcome to the Construction Brothers Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Campbell, and with me, like he is every week, my brother, Eddie Campbell.
What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Eddie. Well, this week we were talking about a path to a modern workforce.
All right, so I got the distinct pleasure early in my career of starting out tying rebar.
Was it a pleasure?
It was a pleasure. Every single stinking 7 a.m. morning when I showed up and sweated my butt off all day doing it and came home looking like a rust bucket. So one of the things, I learned is like that if there's dull, dirty, and dangerous, mundane work, like that's like it. If you don't know what it's like to maybe go tie rebar, there's kind of a cool place you go. There's a dirty jobs done on it with Shelby Erectors. So I want to introduce Danielle. Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do, and then we can kind of get into this little tie here with Shelby Erectors and a little dirty jobs episode people can go look at.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having me on. My name's Danielle Proctor. I'm the president and CEO of Advanced Construction Robotics. We are transforming the construction industry by making essentially modern equipment for modern crews. So we have currently a robot that will go out and tie that rebar you hate. And we also have a second robot that will lift, carry, and place the rebar. So our goal is to modernize the construction equipment that's out there to make it safer and better for people to use.
So you got tie-bot, you got iron-bot. They're helping out with this plight I had to face early in the career. But how do you guys know Shelby, and what's kind of the tie-in there?
Well, actually, we showed up on Shelby's doorstep, literally his house. We had one of the tie bots on a demo trailer, and it was cruising around in Florida. Stopped by a job site. His superintendent said, Jack needs to see this. Jack was down in Key West, so we drove the robot down to Key West and pulled it into his house. Showed him what it could do. That was about 2.5, 3 years ago. Ever since then, we made him an integration partner at ACR. So he has been right alongside us as we've been developing first tie bot on the rebar tying side. And he was actually one of the first ones to use iron-bot on its maiden voyage in Port St. Lucie.
So did you guys just like tie a mat in his front yard or something like that to convince him? Or?
Exactly. We had a 40-foot trailer that had all the rebar on it. And we actually set a tie bot on there for him and showed him. And he said, I got to do this. So we've enjoyed our time with Jack and Shelby.
That's awesome. So just to clarify, though, that's a tie-in. So if you want to know a little bit more about Shelby, they did get featured on one of their bridge projects with Micro and Dirty Jobs. So get a little point of reference, and also a great way of mentioning Mike Rowe on the podcast and getting maybe Mike to come on.
Mike, let me get in your ear for a second. Please come join us. Please come join us.
Anyway,
we need you.
Okay,
that's it.
This is real. This is a real. Oh my gosh, you got me off the rails, man.
Mike.
Mike.
I almost said, well, thanks, guys. That's making me feel like this. No.
Great.
Thanks for the shout out, Ty.
No, we've been trying to get him on for so long.
Mike.
You know what I'm...
Okay, you go.
That stupid camel from
back on the rails, man. You go.
All right. So the big point is that this is a robot that has been implemented, right? It's on a site doing real construction, and there are a lot of people in our audience that I know want to know, how do I start getting all of these robots we're hearing about on my site? So like maybe a general contractor. And it's like, okay, we got these jobs out there. I'd love to be able to feature these kind of things. I'd love to be able to show people that we're innovative and we do things, but I don't know how to get from like A to B, let alone like what feels like A to Z to get all the way out to where I got a huge robot tying rebar on my site.
Exactly.
But enter Danielle, you've got kind of a plan that you can hand us. So why don't you walk us through a little bit of that? Like where might we start? Or where might you advise somebody to start?
This isn't only applicable to our robots, right? So what we did was we made tie-bot basically risk-free. You got to test it out. Having us tell you, hey, trust us, these are going to work, that's not enough. We actually have to show and be able to prove what they can do. And you have to be able to see it firsthand. So that's kind of pushed us along this path to the modern workforce. And the first step really is concept. Whether it's our company or other companies out there that are looking to adopt tech, find somebody who's willing to give you hands-on demonstration in a risk-free manner, right? Because you can't afford to lose your schedule. You can't afford to chance it just yet. So find somebody who's going to work with you and say, hey, let's get it out there. And if it doesn't work for the next 2 days, we'll take it home. Not a problem. So that's one of the things that we did here at ACR. And it's really helped our acceleration into the market.
Okay, so concept, so like the first step, as we flesh that out, like first step is concept in that you're trying to help people to understand, like, hey, this is viable right now.
Yeah.
This is something you can actually use today. Like, we're going to go put this on your site. It's going to help you now.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to trust, right? Who are we to, it's an evolving industry and there's so much stuff out there. Some of them are really, really cool and some of them are very, very useful. And I think it's up to the subcontractors and the general contractors, do your due diligence, see which one can actually apply to a current problem they have. And then, give it a whirl, get it on your site and support that contact to see what it actually can do. If it doesn't work out for you, there's no harm. But if it can, that's when you start moving into the second phase.
Well, I mean, that makes a heck of a lot of sense because ultimately what robotics is, they're tools, right? They're tools that we use in our tool belt every single day on a job site, right? So if I'm implementing a new tool, I'm going to want to take it out and give it a test spin to make sure that I'm not giving a crappy product to all of my people, right? And I also want my people, the ones that are going to have to use it every single day, to give me feedback and make sure that it's actually doing what we need it to do. And I think it's a great point, Danielle, because I think we skip ahead and we're thinking, well, if we implement this, we're just going to need to we're going to actually need to implement it on the whole project. And so what you're basically saying is, okay, no, go ask questions, maybe get a demo. A lot of robotics companies at this stage especially are willing to come out and show you what you guys have and how it can benefit the project. Am I right? Like, that's what you're saying. It's just ask for it.
Yep, 100%. I mean, it's one thing to get a demo or see it on a video. It's no whole other thing to see it actually on your job. And there's resistance, right? Everybody's really going to be looking at it. And it's understanding that it truly is a concept. It's a conceptual, let's test it out. If it works, great, let's start talking. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't a good fit for you.
So what's next steps after that?
I can go back to my experience with Shelby, right? So Tybot, same pitch. Hey, why don't you give it a whirl? And we got it on one of his bridges. Everybody was like, oh, this thing's going to take my job. And, this is no good. And Jack started watching it and said, I got to start getting my crew involved with this. So that was kind of the next phase that moved us to the next level with Shelby. So they went from a demo, trial run, test drive, whatever you want to call it, to a point where Shelby actually trains some of his own rod busters to supervise the robot. So now we are training and we're educating and we're showing them this is an augmentation. This is another tool, to your point, Tyler, right? This is just another tool. And it's the next level generation tool. And once they started understanding it and actually working with it, they're accelerated the adoption.
How do you get some of these, crusty, dusty old rebar guys to come your way? I mean, there's got to be a little bit of, you got to get them emotionally invested in the whole thing. Like, how do you get them over the line? Because people get mad at robots.
Well, but even you, man, you've talked about this in the past where you've had some of the old guys out on site where it's you pick up a trowel to go do a specific job and they knock it out of your hand and say, no, that's my job.
Yeah, you don't do that.
That's my job. So there's a lot of ownership around each position on a job, especially in rebar and concrete. So this is super, this can happen in a lot of different trades where we're very territorial about this. How do you navigate this?
Well, I mean, it's tough. I mean, let's with rebar tying, for example, there's still different tools that people use and it's like a personal preference. And I think you got to talk about pride as well, right? This is eons and eons and generations of work that's been handed down through families. That's what they've known. That's what they've understood. So, you have the hip reel, and now you have the tie guns, and this is the next evolution. I would have been interested to see the Rodbusters' first experience when the first tie gun came out. So this is a progression of tools. Some people will understand it, adopt it, and embrace it. Some people always won't. I have definitely gotten an earful from both of them. I personally was in the steel business for 15 years. I get it. What was interesting, though, TieBot, when they came out, I think that was more of a perception of taking or removing work. It wasn't, it's important. It's important, and it's a really tedious job, that you went through. But when we came out with IronBot, the response was 100% different than we thought. That one, they're like, oh, we don't want you to leave. They don't like humping bar. They don't like carrying it. It is more dangerous. It's more difficult. If you saw that clip that Dirty Jobs did, it is heavy, heavy lifting work. So, TieBot was nice. IronBot with TieBot, it's disruptive. It really is helping them understand that, hey, I could save my back, or maybe I could work 5, 6, 10 years longer, or I could go do other more skilled, trained work. So it's an evolution, but yeah, we definitely get feedback.
So how many guys, like, just rough guess, you got a 60-foot piece of bar. How many guys do you typically see carrying that around?
Well, what they said is one for each man and one for the company. So if you have 5 guys, they're carrying 6 bars.
Yeah. So, I mean, and they're carrying that. And if you've carried rebar, it's flopping around, wobbling, shaking, doing everything. And then you're trying to, in unison with everybody else, so you're not the last man standing, holding the thing, drop it together, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're also trying not to get your fingers in between a couple of them. Because, oh my gosh.
Well, don't forget what you're walking on.
And you're walking like on, not a tightrope, but you're walking on a grid that your boots want to slip down into every chance that it can. So, yeah. It's not easy, and it kind of sucks. And so, yeah, if you have a thing that can carry, 50,000 pounds? What was it on IronBot?
Now you're overselling us. 5,000.
5,000
pound bundles.
So, hey,
if we do that one, then we'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know on the 50.
Yeah, I'll let you know when we get to the 50.
So 5,000 pounds of bar that you're carrying, and now you've got a little bit of a systematized thing going where... Yeah.
And the cool thing is watching this all go together. We had the experience of going down to a job. We have a test facility up here, so we did a lot of time trials and like 8-hour shifts working with the crews. This one, you really do all work together. It was a lot of fun to see how you have a robot supervisor, and their job really is just to watch the robot and give it a couple instructions or, make sure everything's going smoothly. The Rodbuster is actually in there feeding the bar. You see all the crew around. They're all getting ready. And in the beginning, you would see everybody kind of huddle around the IronBot. And once they figured out IronBot was going to take care consistently to place the bar, you would start seeing the crews maneuver around, and they'd start working on chairs, or they'd start working on barrier work. And then usually you'd have to have anywhere between 4 to 6 guys behind tying the bar. You had one guy frame tying it, just to set it in place. And then our TieBot's coming up behind and tying every single intersection. So it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit the other day. Like, as with any new tool, any new tech, you're like learning how to work with it. So once they got it on site and the crews got a little more friendly with it, well, then like the scary's over, we start innovating around it and learning how to work, right?
Exactly. And that was really fun to see. So where you have resistance, now you're like a realization, right? They're like, oh, wait a minute, we could do this, or that's going to help me, or oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to give that one to the bot. That's exactly what we're talking about, is that migration into this crew mentality, right? So once your crew starts understanding it, these are the guys who are out there busting their humps, rain, 100-degree weather. It's up to I think it's important for them to understand it and want to figure out how to work with the robots. This is augmentation. It is not replacement.
It reminds me of like when we're talking about like lifting heavy bars, like humping bar, like doing all this stuff. It reminds me of just like how it must have felt when cranes came out, It's like, oh, wait, it's going to take my job of lifting this, massive whatever the heck and lifting it up into play. Like, I mean, I would think nobody looks at that and goes, oh, but I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss carrying this massive thing up this flight of steps. Nobody's going to miss that. That's kind of the misconception.
Yeah. How about the excavator?
Right. Yeah. And the excavator.
Same thing with the excavator. Oh, I really want to send 20 guys out and dig that hole.
But okay, so it's not a complete replacement. I think it's a complete replacement for just like the stuff that nobody really wants to do at the end of the day. Like the stuff that's not really that fun, and it leaves the people that are really highly skilled and incredible to focus in on those things that are details that like that chair work, like all of the stuff along the sides that you won't be able to hit with TideBot. They can focus on those things, but ultimately it's just a part of your team.
Yep.
Right? Like that's kind of what I'm seeing, is that it's just a part of your team. It's another tool in the belt, and it just helps move things along faster. It's really cool.
All right. So you get the crew buy-in. What's next? What's up after that?
All right. Well, this one, my opinion is the Mac Daddy. This is where, in order to be a game changer and really starting to look forward and get ahead in the industry, is it has to be adopted in the cultural basis of the company. So you're going from concept, you have crew acceptance. You're going to see some benefits with the crew acceptance, but to truly like unleash the power and comprehend and trust the robotic solutions or technology or modern equipment, tools of the trade, it's fun to see now companies that say, all right, I get it. And I'm going to kind of rethink how we do this construction process to fully optimize that. And that goes all the way down into estimating. That's a big one, right? That's a big leap for companies that have been doing things historically the exact same way. So when you start looking at some innovative companies that are saying, all right, we've proven that it works, we've gotten our crews to adopt it, now we have to look at how we do business to gain that competitive advantage when some bids are getting beat by quarter point or less. That's what we're really finding. We have two companies that have moved into that realm already. So we have Brayman Construction as well as Advantage Steel, and those are considered our certified innovators. Those are the ones where they understand it, they're willing to work with it, and they actually incorporate it in their bids.
Why would you recommend not putting that first? Like, why would I not get the estimators like looking for an opportunity to use it? Why is it important maybe to start with the crew before that to get these, like if I get them out of order, is there a penalty in your opinion?
Yeah, I won't get in there. I mean, I'm sure Eddie, you like me, but I can tell a fun story, and I've been in the industry for a really long time, but who am I to tell you that this is going to change how you do business? They'll be like, oh, okay, whatever. You have to prove it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And we have to put like kind of basically our, what is it? Money behind we got to guarantee it. We got to show. In 10 years, or 5 years, let's say 5 years adoption. I think that's probably when we'll start seeing more of an acceleration. We're already seeing early innovators now. Those ones get it quicker. Perhaps I could talk to them about the end game and they're already thinking it. But we're to get mass adoption, I think you got to continue down this path of proving that it works. The more and more case studies we get, the more and more proof we get. It's no longer me telling you should try this. It's you understanding that if you don't get ahead of it, somebody else is gonna.
I'm curious from like, and this could apply to a lot of different robotics companies and different things, but from your perspective, if you're coming in and you're selling this to a company, what is the thing that really flips the switch in their mind where why did they initially come to you? Like, is it a labor thing? Is it a speed thing? Is it like, what is the problem that they are trying to solve for their company?
I think, a big driver has been this labor shortage. So I think everybody's starting to be more aware. But probably one of the biggest wins we see with people is schedule. It's schedule gains, it's schedule consistency, it's understanding, it's gotten so backlogged. So speed and access to people, those are probably the top two reasons. And then the third one is, it's a little bit of FOMO, right? I'll be honest with you. So we've gotten like 4 phone calls. We have 3 robots down in Florida right now tying. And we just broke into a new state, Wisconsin, last week. And somebody called and said, tie bots in Wisconsin. Hey, what's that doing on there? That's doing on the other guy's job. So it's been, a little bit of both.
There's tool envy going on. That's what it is. It's tool envy.
Yeah, I'm going to use that one. I like that. I'm going to scrap our entire marketing campaign. Just said, do you have tool envy?
Do you have tool envy? Be the envy of your competition or whatever it is. That'd be hilarious. No, I think it's really interesting to talk about, why people are approaching it. And I mean, the tool envy's fun and we can pick at that a little bit, of course, but I'm surprised that it's not more the labor shortage side of things. Like it feels like that's what's really getting people kind of on board with robotics, is that it's just a struggle to find people. And I know that's a part of what you said, but I'm surprised that the other one seems a little more important, like the speed and like, I don't know. I just feel like the labor shortage would have been more of a problem.
I think the labor shortage, it is a problem, but it ebbs and flows. And, you're not always short. Sometimes you're short. There's certain areas that are short. So I don't know if it's completely nationwide for our particular group of people we're talking to, right? It is coming. I think career longevity is a big thing for people as well. You combine the labor shortage along with, especially in these nasty, dirty, dull, dangerous jobs that we're looking at. It's hard on your body. It is really hard. And there are people out there who want to continue to work and just physically can't. The labor shortage is bringing up the discussion. Then the following benefits that's the second one we hear is, we can't stay on schedule. We can't stay on time. So definitely, I think a bit of both.
Yeah. Career longevity is a huge one too. Like I saw this video and I shared it out, I think on LinkedIn. I have to dig it up and put it in our show notes or something, but it's this roofer, and it was Salary Transparency Street or something like that was the name of the channel or the page, and person went up and asked him, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a roofer, and it's like, okay, well, how much do you make? He told him, and it's like, what would you tell kids wanting to be a roofer? He's like, don't be a roofer. And they're like, why? He's like, because I'm 30 and I feel like I'm 70 because I'm bending over all the time. I'm lifting heavy things. And it's like, yeah, like that guy has beaten his body to a pulp. And so I feel like a lot of times it's like, we forget how difficult this is. What's funny is that we get a lot of the keyboard warriors out there talking about like, well, he's not considering the blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. You're saying that from your cushy office. You don't realize how much that takes. So like, I would argue that anybody wondering how difficult this actually is, if you're sitting in your office right now, go join the crew one day. Just go join the crew one day. You probably want to find a better way. That's just me.
Join the crew for a month.
I mean, dude, how long did you last tying rebar?
Oh gosh,
year and a half, 2?
No, I wasn't out there that long. I mean, it was like 6 months.
It's because it's brutal, right?
It was brutal. I got to experience summer and winter.
Yeah,
both suck.
And you decided to go climb under houses.
Oh, that was a
holiday in comparison.
Oh yeah, that was an upgrade.
Let that sink in. Climbing under houses is an upgrade to tying rebar.
No, that was, and
golly.
So I'm definitely hearing the whole FOMO thing. Though I can get that, and that's kind of the crux of the episode here. Is I'm thinking that there are some listeners out there they hear about these things, but it's right. Like I want to get that on my site. I want to do this thing, but I don't quite know how, and I'm worried my competitors are doing it, like because they're showing it, right? I mean, because you get the cool thing on your site. You're showing it off. You're telling people about it. Like, look at what we're doing. We're doing this innovative thing. We do it this way because, we're better, right? It's a chest thump. And I know that as we are trying to compete with one another and get that little bit of leg up, Dude, yeah, the FOMO, the fear of just having somebody get that one over on you because you're not the one doing it, that's definitely driving it. People will spend sometimes more money in the name of innovation to get that tool out there and give it a try.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the envy is there. I mean, that's 100%. So, but it is, as it becomes commonplace, now the estimator knows to try to figure it into the next one.
Yeah.
So
how much planning has to go into something like this? Like from your perspective, like, okay, we're talking about the estimator, of course, but like when you're loading up, what is it reading from? Are we just going off of CAD? Are we going off of BIM? What does that look like?
No, TieBot's completely autonomous. Literally, this thing can come in a 40-foot trailer. Is the bridge is once it's set up and it's ready and the bar's been laid down. If IronBot hasn't, this is a TieBot side. We set it up. TieBot can go from 9 foot to 117 foot wide. We basically have like interchangeable gantries. And so it comes in on a trailer. We configure it for the width of the job. 60 or 70 foot bridge, maybe you're uplifted with a crane in an hour. It sits on the screed rail and literally you turn it on. And what it does is it self-identifies, self-navigates, and self-ties the intersections. It's looking for any intersection. That's what it's looking for.
Ah, okay.
So there is no input. There's no BIM. There's no pre-programming. It literally starts to see, scans the grid, and plans its path. And you tell it basically whether you want every other intersection or every intersection, and it goes.
So, all right. So it's using, I don't know if it's computer vision, but it's using some layer of it's scanning and it's saying, all right, here's an intersection. We're going to tie that.
Yeah. It has two sets of cameras. So it is live feeding itself and instructing itself when to tie and when not to tie. It understands its area of work. Once that's completed, you can either have it self move forward, or we like to run it with the robot supervisor that it'll stop and then say, can I move forward? And you just click. So there's no remote control. You see the guys when they're out there supervising TieBot, we call it transmitter or belly box. It's usually on the side of their hip. They're not managing the robot. They're just watching over it. And then supporting it with its like tie wire spool changes. We carry 15-pound spools. Eddie, did you carry 15-pound spools?
no. I wouldn't have carried my jeans anymore if I carried a 15-pound spool.
That's
So TieBot has 15-pound spools. So the nice thing about that is it's, probably 2 to 3 swaps an entire day rather than, you'll see with the hip reels or guns anywhere between 1 or 3 pound spools. So just think about that. It's also changing all the wire and carrying those spools around.
well, okay. So same question, but for IronBot. So is that a lot of like setup from a modeling side too, or is that kind of the same thing where you're like, no, I need this sort of grid, go?
Nope. So IronBot doesn't rely on as much vision. It uses its own odometry. So same type of things. It comes up in a trailer. This one's a little bit bigger because it's carrying not 50,000 pounds.
5,000.
5,000.
50,000 is absurd. Now that I've said that out loud, I feel like an idiot.
When it comes in on the trailer, they'll configure it. Takes a little bit more configuration. We're talking maybe about 6 to 8 hours before it can get lifted by the crane. And once it sits on, same type of deal. Robot supervisor lets it know, here's your first bar and what the spacing is. So that's what IronBot's going to be asking for. What would you like for spacing? Do you want 6? Do you want 8? Do you want 12? And then it understands when it's going both longitudinally and transversely. And it just moves along the tracks, the same screed rails, and its places, and it knows what it's doing. Once it's finished its area of work, it'll communicate back to the robot supervisor and say, can I spin, right? Because you guys, I don't know if you saw the video, but when this thing rotates, it's like it almost like requires like a rock star behind it. It turns its whole way. So you got a 60-foot expandable boom, and then it'll just continue down its spacing.
That's really interesting. And I think it's worth talking about mainly from the preparation standpoint, right? Like when we're talking about an estimator putting this in for their job or, project management or whatever, what do I need to do to set up for this? to make sure that it's a successful thing. Now, I know that you guys will come out and you do demo, do all that other stuff, show me how it works. But it helps me better understand, like, okay, what logistics do I need to work on my side? Like, how much pre-planning needs to go into this? How much modeling or whatever?
You bring up that's a good, really, really, really good point. So when we talk about logistics, there's two sides of it. Good job, Tyler.
Yeah, I try.
So what we just talked about was actually deploying, right? Configuration, mobilization, and deployment. The true kind of culture side of it and what you're talking about, and something that we do with our current customers and those certified innovators I was telling you about, they know how to do, is they actually look at the entire plans and identify any areas for optimization that you may have to bundle some bars, or we could change some locations. The biggest goal is to get a runway going, right? So what you don't want to do is then come up to the next critical path item that may hold your robot or your technology back. So when you start looking at, we call them bundle plans. And when we have a job we're going into, we actually look at the plans and we provide a day by day. Here's where the bundles optimally should be dropped, right? Because you have travel time. There's so many factors when you start looking at the whole operation. How far are the bundles? What are their spacings going to be? What's the travel time? What's the hump time that we could eliminate? Is there different places we could drop the bundles so that IronBot can just pick up along the way rather than have to hike back and get it? So you start looking at how's this dance work? And we can actually come up with grids. And those are what we're providing the estimators.
Got it.
I know that when we talked, because we kind of talked doing a little man versus machine on this.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how, like you bring this out to site and then all of a sudden, like the crew wants to like job up and like
race
the machine, race the machine.
Oh, yeah.
But you kind of had this vision of like, I want to see it work with like maybe tandem bridges with the crew and the machine, like
That'd be cool.
kind of, coming back and forth with one another. So what does that look like? Like if you did set that scenario up, what might we see out of the crew, while what might we see out of the IronBot TieBot as they crawl the bridge and work towards one another?
It's the first thing is, as always, the race against TieBot. It's so funny that's the first, and I get it, right? There's some people out there, they are like kick-ass tires. I mean, it is amazing what they can output, and you'll see them, they'll go gangbusters. I give them complete cred for what they can do out there. So first 4 hours, yeah, we probably could get beat. 8 hours, maybe, right? Depends on how young and active you are. But what we start looking at is, how's that going to look over 40 hours? Or how's that going to look over 4 weeks? Or in some of these mega jobs, how's that going to look over 2 years? And that's where we start seeing, you start seeing a greater benefit where these projects are long and big. Because, you're not going to see a good use of our technology or our tools on a small 1 or 2 day bridge. Hands down, that's not a good place for the robotics solution to help augment a job. What we're talking about are these big, massive 2-3 mile jobs and everywhere in between. We usually say a job should be about a week long manually for it to make sense for TieBot. And for an IronBot TieBot solution, it should be about 2 weeks manually estimated. Initial indications right now, IronBot TieBot combo. We did a job with Shelby. It was planned for 14 days manually, and we completed it in 7.
Was that IronBot and TieBot together?
That was the maiden voyage. So that was all of the hard work of the engineering team here, putting it together. That was what we were spitting out in our calculations. It was amazing to see it came to fruition. We actually hit our numbers first time out. IronBot's, getting tweaked. We learned a lot. We field learn. It's a big thing that Shelby provides us is real life data, as well as our certified innovators. So for us to test these things on actual bridges, we're learning at an amazing rate right now. So IronBot's going to be heading back out. Site to be disclosed soon.
Maybe you could tell us after the recording. So I'm curious too, like from an innovation side, just on your end, is making this thing quicker? Is that part? I mean, that would have to be part of your innovation plan, right? Is making it faster. Is there a limitation for how fast you can actually make it? Like where it becomes unsafe for it to be moving this quickly?
Oh yeah, no, we're
You know
not
what I
gonna
mean?
have,
Like you're
bars
knocking
flying
people
around. And,
Right. I'm just thinking through like this is a big machine. Like would you have to almost like control how fast it moves?
yeah, I mean, I think its top speed right now is about 2 miles per hour. So we're not talking about it's a heavy lifter. It's very intent on what it's doing, which is placing bar at the correct intervals, right? So this isn't a fast moving machine. This is a productivity enhancing machine. And you have to get your head around that. Faster does not necessarily mean better. It's consistent. And what are we optimizing on levels of productivity that before a crew would not be able to take advantage of? So when you know that that's already taken care of, that was kind of that example. If you already know that that's taking care of one critical path item, you can already get started on the other. That's where the speed comes up from. It's and it's all dependent on, is your deck down? Is your are the pans down? Is your overhang down? What's our concrete schedule? So that we go back to that culture side of things is you got to start planning it. And it's scary because, concrete pours, you want to get them in and out as soon as they're ready. And some of our customers were saying, hey, could you hold back? We're not going to show up at week 1. We'd like to show up at week 2 and bang the whole thing out in 1 week. And that's like, we got to prove to the market that this works. We know it does. So we're just getting some more projects under our belt.
Of course, yeah. Now I'm just thinking, like, is there like a nitrous button for this thing? Like we can crank it from 2 miles an hour up to 5. Like, is there the Tim the Toolman Taylor version of this?
I don't know. I'll ask my director of ops. I'll see if there's like the golf carts, right? Where's the governor? I'll find out where the governor is and I'll flick it for you. How's that?
Let's take it up to 20 and see what happens, right? Like, seriously, like you're gonna have bars over in the building next to it, like or something.
Yeah, let's get it on a cross slope like this on one of the exit ramps and let's ramp it up around the turn.
It'll be fine. It'll be great. What could go wrong?
This reminds me of that. You remember you talking about the remote control autonomous lawnmowers?
Oh, yeah.
And this came up a little bit with Tyler when we were talking about JBot.
Tyler Williams.
Yeah. Like he was saying, I wish I had 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like you put it in the field's hands. So like the field gets TieBot, IronBot in their hands, and then they give this feedback. So that feedback of like, well, what if it did this? It'd be cool if it did that. Yeah. We worked with it this way. We understood this process. That's the thing that made the guy say, I don't necessarily like 1 lawnmower is cool, but I could actually operate 3 and, and I'm just one guy. 1 JBot's cool, but I could probably operate 2 because I stand here a lot. And then the downtime of 1, I can make the other go.
Yeah.
Same thing, TieBot, IronBot. It's like, this is cool, but like, let's rehash the way we work a little bit. Like that thing's doing that thing. Well, I'm not just going to stand here with my thumb in my ear. I'm going to go, I'm going to start doing some of this perimeter work. I'm going to start doing some of this stuff that I might not have gotten to yet. It's amazing how field implementation and like the ingenuity of the guys in the field, when it starts resounding back and then we start listening to that and then that gets developed in these new tools. Now, I mean, the return is just coming back all the more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's time and that's money, but that's also the safety. That's the return on these guys and, them being able to stay in the livelihood and all this stuff we're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's cool though. I mean, like as it gets out in the field, like we're just not going to see anything but it getting better. And so, you start trying it. I think that's the big message of this is like, start trying it. And if you're not sure how, well, then Danielle's given us a good path. Like try the path.
Yeah.
And see how it works.
Hey, what's the worst thing? You go back to what you're currently doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just in case you've now tapped into something that's going to not open help your crew and your employees, but your company. And that's worth it. That's worth giving it a shot.
Often, sometimes you go down this path, you try something out, but then you say, that's not right. But hey, I had this other idea while we were doing it.
Yeah.
What if? And that's how innovation takes place is you kind of got to throw some crap at the wall sometimes and try it and just have some fun and just enjoy learning, enjoy the experience. And we want to get it right the first time. And that's just not the way it works most of the time.
And it doesn't have to be too complicated, right? So, it's a fine line. I think when people start talking about robots, it seems a little scarier than it is. It's a fine line between automation and autonomy. Our goal is we like to make more towards the automation side and sprinkle in the autonomy where it's needed. Ironbot, for example, when it first came out, it had all these arms. Looked really cool, right? The first prototype, there's a video out there. And now we've changed it and it's this big, cool thing with big tires. That's a perfect example where the arms were very cool. They were robotically sound, but actual efficiencies and productivity, the roll index that we did with the tires was a better fit. So, technology and construction, it's been an interesting dance of don't overcomplicate it, right? This is a age-old task that we are basically trying to provide a consistency. And Eddie, when you were talking about it, how do we get there? It sounds a little bit hokey, but trust, right? You got to start trusting that it is going to work. And the only way you can get trust is by experience, hands-on experience.
Well, I think I might know your megaphone question, but I don't know. So I think it's time that we're going to ask you our megaphone. So if we give you a megaphone in around 60 seconds, Danielle, what would you want to say to the construction industry? What would you want to leave with?
This has been a fun ride with me. I started out in software and technology. I was in construction for 15 years, and I've been given the really, really, really unique opportunity and great job to merge them both. We are in the middle, in my opinion, of essentially a robotic renaissance. And the time is not in the future. It's now. It's coming. So just take your blinders off, have some fun, go take a look at what's out there. Do a little bit of internal searching to see what problems you have currently that you would love to see. I mean, one of my favorite questions is, if I could make you a robot that does blank, what would it be? If you start thinking about understanding where autonomy or automation can help, it'll give you a targeted path to go look for it. So basically just go try it, support the companies that are coming out with it. Support them financially if you want, and support your organizations in growing and understanding that technology is here to help.
It's good stuff. It's a lot of fun. So, all right, Danielle, thank you so much for joining us this week. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.